Hello and welcome. In today's episode, we will try to understand various parts of the application Permit Manager and see how all these parts come together to build a complete application. This application has a backend in Supabase as we had said before. Okay, so let's open the Supabase. Let's go to the table editor. There are multiple tables and there are a few views like float permit view, new permit view and cloud count view. We had to create these views because the queries that we had to use to fetch this data were very complex, so it was better that we created this view for performance and to ease our life as developers. We will not go into the details of the views that we have created and what we have done in the coding, but just try to explain. Like what we have done over here is that this is the primary data that we are using. This data contains lots of information, and there are about 10,000 plus rows in it, as you can see over here. Okay, let's go to definition. This is a very huge thing. Let's go back to the data. Okay, so we built a view, new permit data, with all those fields that we require in our application. There are other fields but we don't require them, so we have omitted them from this. In the same way, we have a table called float permit. This table is unique in the sense that it stores user ID and the record ID of each permit that a user is following. There is nothing else over here. Okay, because this is a multi-tenant app, so all the float permits will have to be linked to a particular user. So if you are not logged in, you cannot use this feature. We also created a view of float permit just like the new permit data view. Okay, the reason why we had to do this is the same as I explained before, to have only those fields that are of our interest and to avoid other fields. Besides that, we have created quite a few functions. Let me show you a few of these functions. First thing that we needed to do was to implement FTS or full text search feature of Supabase. Full text search feature makes it easier for us to search anywhere in the table. When I say anywhere, means to search for a word or a group of letters in all the columns that we are interested in a table. For that we have created, or we have used full text search or FTS. As the queries to fetch data very complex, so what we have done is that we have created a few functions that we are calling from Lowcoder to fetch the data in a particular manner. There are lots of functions. It won't be possible to explain each and every function. Okay. So our main criteria over here is to avoid unnecessary coding at Lowcoder side if we can get those features implemented at Supabase level. So that is exactly what we are doing over here. Now let us try and see how all these things are used in our Lowcoder. So as you can see over here, the counting of all these different types of permits is done using functions that we have created over here. In the same way, this data is fetched using functions Okay, and these functions that we have created over here are again connecting to the view that we have defined over here and fetching data from there. This is how the whole thing is combined together. Okay. Now let's analyze the structure of Lowcoder. So in Lowcoder, as you can see, there are a few apps like the login app, search permit app, sign up app, logout app, dashboard app, and follow permit app. We also created a module called top navigation bar. What is the top navigation bar? This green bar. Okay, so I'll just open the login. So what we are exactly doing over here by login, we are actually using the feature of user management provided by Supabase, which falls under the authentication. Over here we are using this feature to log into the system. Okay, so all the session management is done by Supabase, and we do not have to bother with it. So what happens when a user logs in? So let's open the login app. This is a simple design. There is nothing much over here. What we have done, it needs to be looked at over here. Like we have created a query to check email. We have created a query that will means a JS script that will call this query, and the login code and authentication code. This authentication code may interest a few of you. So what we have done over here is that we are checking whether the authentication is valid or not. If the authentication is valid, means then we will store the user logged in user's information into a local storage. Now let's try and log in from here so that you will be able to see what data goes in over here. Now let's analyze this search permit page. The search permit page, okay, has all this. This is set inside a column layout, okay, where we have defined 2 columns and we have put everything over here. Okay, inside this column layout you can see all this controls. Under that we have put a table. Okay. We have done some programming at the table level so that when the user checks, this button should become enabled and the count should show up over there. So for that we have done get selected row, as you can see. We are using the get selected row count, and then we are defining a few activities over here, like it is selected or is not selected. Okay, and accordingly we are calling this script, and this script does the magic. Right, so it's very simple. There is not much coding over here. Like get session, this is again an important area that you need to understand. Okay, so we are using all the necessary Supabase keys, and we are using create client to get the session and then authenticating it accordingly. Okay, get session will again result into output, and that output will be used over here. So we are throwing a value to trigger the event handler over here. I'll try to repeat. We are using throw over here, okay, to trigger the event handle over here. If we do not use throw over here, then we would have to write the necessary code over here. Instead of that, what we have done is we have put up an image over here, and which will help us work things out. In the same way, when we select a few permits and say follow permit, this will trigger this particular function. Where again we are logging into the thing, and then we are using the client to check whether the user's login is valid or not, and then we are inserting the data into the table over here. Where we are saving the user ID. Okay, this is something else which is a part of our larger project, so we are not concerned with this in this particular project. And the permit ID. So we are saving that data or inserting that data, and then again we are throwing a true, okay, if it is success. So when we say throw true, it would trigger the failure event, and we will show a notification if it fails. So it works a bit in a, what should I say, in a different manner. Let's try and understand how this works. In fact, we will do that in later episodes. Okay, now let's see what we have done in creating this navigation bar. It is very simple. All that we have done is place a navigation control. This navigator, as you can see over here. In that we have added these 4 links or items. Each of these items would lead to a particular app. So in each we are opening an app like permit manager dashboard. Okay, search permit, we are using permit manager search permit. And over here we have defined one input, that is active menu item. So whenever this item loads, every page will pass a value to this particular parameter, and this parameter will then get decided as to what happens when. Okay, let's see. It's not much, there is not much coding into this. Like for example, if I take this dashboard, okay, I just have this one single line of code. It says that if the value is equal to 1, then true, otherwise it is false. So if we pass value 1, this item will be highlighted. If we pass value 2, this will be highlighted, and so on and so forth. Let's go back over here. Now let's study the log out part, because that is important. In log out, what we have done is just ending the session and removing the local storage entry. First we are of course checking for session, and then when the user signs out, we are just calling the Supabase client and using the sign out command. Okay, so let's see what we have done over here. We are just saying run sign out, as you can see, and this is the code that we are running. As soon as this sign out is done, so now what would happen is that the after completing this, we will run this JavaScript and clear local storage. Then we will direct the user to the login page. If there is failure, we will show a notification like something went wrong, kind of thing. I think this explains most part of the application and how we have built it. In later episodes, we will go into a bit more technical details. Thank you.